We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Back in studio with my guy, Mike Renner, ready to do second-year breakouts. You have a breakout listed for all 32 NFL teams. I have some disagreements here. I'm gonna have some other ones that I like, some other guys that I think will be bigger breakouts for these teams, but this one should be a ton of fun. This is a Rookies and Draft Prospects podcast, so we're gonna look at some of these guys. This is the last time we'll really talk about them. Yeah. Second-year guys.
Yeah, I would say they're no longer rookies anymore, technically, so we're already breaking our own
You're kind of setting them off. We're setting them off. You hate to see it, but should be
getting them a do.
Should be a good time. Before we get into it, I wanted to say a couple things. One, I got that story where that chick went up to me at the first date story. And two, we are doing some recon on 2-for-1 drafts. I'm opening up the DMs. If you're interested in providing feedback on 2-for-1 drafts, we're considering some song changes, some logo changes, potentially a name change. Not considering,
we are changing.
We are changing. We are changing some things about 2-for-1 drafts. If you're interested in providing some feedback on 2-for-1 drafts, what you like about the podcast, what you don't like, some name ideas, some different things like that, I have a cool survey set up. If you want to reach out via Twitter, via DM, we can do a one-on-one Zoom. There might be a handful of 2-on-1, 3-on-1 Zooms, and we're going to talk a little bit about 2-for-1 drafts, provide feedback there. Should be a ton of fun. 2-for-1 drafts, not for long.
We also forgot to mention it's your birthday.
It is my birthday.
So big 27.
27 years young here on 2-for-1 draft. Should be a ton of fun. All right, let's get to this date story. So I meet this chick at a coffee shop, and we're just talking for a little bit, and I say something about like, oh yeah, I had like a crazy first date story. And she's like, I tell the one about that chick who had like 3 DUIs in 6 months, which is a classic, an absolute classic. If you haven't heard that story on this podcast, go back and find it because it's an absolute classic. And then she's like, okay, I think I have a pretty good one. Chick tells me she meets this guy on a train. She meets this guy on a train who's got sunglasses on, and she immediately recognizes him as a hot train guy. She's like, oh, he's attractive. He has a mask on and sunglasses, which talk about range. Okay, you could be a 2 or a 10. Yeah. If you have a mask and sunglasses on, you could be a 2 or a 10. We don't know where it could be.
Faces.
Yeah, but she thought he was hot. Starts talking to him a little bit. He asks her on a date. Asks for her number. Gets her number. She puts him in his phone. Hot train guy. Love to see it. You love to see it. They agree to grab drinks. When they're going out for drinks, conversation's a little bit light. He still has the sunglasses on inside at this bar. Interesting. An interesting choice. This is where they're at. An interesting choice. He ends up, they're talking for a little bit, and then he ends up, she says to me, he's planning a fascist movement. And one of the first questions he asks her is, what type of people would you want to oppress in this fascist movement? She kind of laughs a little bit and she's like, Canadians? She's like, no. He's like, no, it has to be people in this country. Like, serious. And she's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to oppress anyone. That was the weirdest question I've ever heard. Whatever. The date gets weirder from there. Obviously, the conversation is a disaster. Dude still has sunglasses on, by the way. Down the line a little bit later, she's like, okay, I never got your name. Like, what's your name? He's like, I prefer not to say. Wouldn't even tell her her name. They're in a public space. Then they go to a restaurant after drinks. They sit down at the restaurant.
Why is she still there?
Who knows? She said she was too young to like leave at that. She was like still not that confident or whatever the fuck it was. But then they go to this restaurant. They sit down. Waiter comes up and like, oh, what would you guys like? And he speaks for her and he says, we're not eating. We're not eating anything. So they're sitting at this restaurant, didn't order anything. They're sitting at a table in a restaurant and refusing to order anything with sunglasses they end up leaving there. He invites her back or something like that. She says no. And then she said the best part of the date though, and this is the kicker, the best part of the date, never got his name, never took his sunglasses off. On the walk back to her car, he impersonates every single character in the Lord of the Rings. Like including like orc number 4 in the cave. And she said it was the best impersonation she ever heard of Lord of the Rings. So the guy, she came out with a story, but I was like, that is honest. It sounds like she was pulling first date items out of a bag. And then he just kept throwing them at her. And I was like, dude, I can't top that. That sounds insane. No one's asked me who I should oppress. So.
I kind of dig the don't give a name.
You do. You're stop. You would never do that.
I know I wouldn't, but I respect the fact that he refused to give a name. I respect
Either way. All right. Well, remember that the first date story, fantastic. Remember, send me a Twitter DM if you're interested in doing that Zoom feedback session on 2-for-1 Drafts. We'd love to hear from you. Get that one-on-one feedback would be awesome as we approach the summer and approach a rebrand for 2-for-1 Drafts. All right. Possibly. Let's start with the NFC North here. Second-year breakouts for all 32 NFL teams, starting with the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, this is going to be wide receiver T. Higgins. Oh, wait. No, they passed on him last year. No, it's going to be linebacker Kamal Martin, in my opinion. I actually was impressed with what I saw from him as a rookie. Now, he got hurt. He was hurt at the beginning of the year, didn't play until week 7. But I thought he took on blocks a lot better than I expected from what I saw from him on tape in Minnesota. Pretty physical. Obviously, new defense they're going to be running there in Green Bay. Probably less dime. I'd say he'd be on the field more this year. So I think Kamal Martin's the guy I'm most excited to see for the Green Bay Packers. Now, obviously, one quarterback could be breaking out as well in terms of actually playing, but I trust Kamal Martin to be, from what I saw from him as a rookie, like I said, 71.0 coverage grade, 68.5 overall on 208 snaps. So excited to see him.
Yeah, only 73 coverage snaps last year. 5th-round pick out of Minnesota, pick 175, 6'3", 235. I think the second-year breakout has to be not Kamal Martin, Jordan Love.
I mentioned him. I have zero faith, though, like in him actually playing well, though.
Can you believe that Tim Boyle was the backup all of last season and not Jordan Love? That makes no sense to me.
Yes, I can. I mean, I can because we saw him play his last year at Utah State. Like the dude threw almost as many picks as touchdowns that year. He was objectively not good. Like people want to make the comparisons between him and Trey Lance. They were night and day in terms of how they took care of the football and just operated the offense. So he was. It's not surprising to me that if he's struggling against Mountain West competition, that the NFL might be a little difficult for him out the gate. But
what about A.J. Dillon now entering kind of the Jamal Williams role? Because he's going to get more involved this year.
But that's just like Jamal Williams is still the backup. I mean, Aaron Jones is still the feature back there. So I think he's going to be fine when he gets the touches, but the touches are still going to be infrequent. So
all right, let's jump to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. Chicago Bears, I'm going to go. Now, there's a couple options here. I like Jalen Johnson heading into year 2, but I love Darnell Mooney heading into year 2.
And Jalen Johnson already had a really good season.
Yeah, Johnson was already very good. I mean, Mooney was too. 631 yards as a rookie with a lot of missed opportunities, shall we say. A good number there with the Foles-Trubisky combo heaving him downfield passes. Now, Andy Dalton, if he is the starter, not a massive upgrade, but I would say an upgrade. Justin Fields is a starter, accuracy-wise down the football field. That's a big upgrade. So I think Darnell Mooney, I'm expecting some big things from him from what we saw from down the stretch.
Dude, Darnell Mooney, the Fields connection, I'm excited about it. What's your take? I saw Chris Collinsworth said that he thinks Justin Fields should start week 1. He said that on the Chris Collinsworth podcast. What's your opinion of that?
I hate having an outside take on a quarterback situation like that because they're all unique. You know, they're all. How was the guy picking up the offense? How is he looking camp? Does he have things that he needs to fix? Now, I thought Justin Fields, in terms of like footwork, how he operates and like technically was very good. Now, people have questions about his release and whatever, and it's a little slower than the other guys, but it's not to the point where you change anything about what he does from that regard. So I don't think there's anything he needs to like necessarily work on to all of a sudden get ready for the NFL. That's when I worry about throwing a guy to the Wolves, is when he's got to change. You know, when it really is going to be a big step for him. I don't think that's going to be the case with Fields. So I see no reason why he shouldn't start week 1. But again, it's always case by case.
Here's another flyer I'll throw out there if he can earn a spot in camp is Trevis Gipson out of Tulsa, 5th-round pick in 2020, a guy that we really liked, guy we had on this podcast, I think, a handful of times. Going to be 24 years old this year, 6'4", 253, a guy that I think, man, if he can get into the rotation, I do think he can have some success. We really liked him coming out of Tulsa. But that, again, former 5th-round pick, he's got to earn that spot, got to get through the 53 and that type of stuff. But going now to the Minnesota Vikings.
I'm going to go with one Cameron Dantzler, 3rd-round cornerback.
Not Gladney, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Gladney.
What happened?
He'd have to break out of jail first. But
come on.
That was bad. But seriously, Dantzler, though, I mean, down the stretch, he had some games there. 2 of his last 4 games, he had those 2 picks. I think he had that forced fumble also down the stretch. Who was that against? That was against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But he was already the 2nd highest grade cornerback as a rookie. Now, 2nd highest grade cornerback among rookies was nothing necessarily to hang your hat on last year with how badly they performed. Only a 69.8 coverage grade. But I think this guy, heading into year 2, I thought he was a perfect scheme fit when they drafted him. I thought he could not have gone to a more ideal place for him in Mike Zimmer's defense. And I think heading into year 2, you're only going to see him continue to improve. Still only 22 years old. This guy, like, besides the fact that he ran a 4.6 whatever at the combine, he really, and was like skinny. He really had everything else you wanted from a quarterback. So I'm excited to see what he does in year 2.
Man, to give an update on Jeff Gladney, because I know we've hinted at it a bit, but I do think it's important to give some details here. He turned himself in after there was a warrant issued for his arrest. He was charged with a 3rd-degree felony of violence assault against his girlfriend. He is facing 2 to 10 years in prison if convicted. Apparently, he assaulted his girlfriend over some text messages. Again, Jesus. Garbage human. Definitely not going to be a breakout here. What about Cameron Dantzler? I think is a good one. Ezra Cleveland is another name I really like too. Ezra
Cleveland as well. I think they're obviously keeping him at guard, where he looked good as a rookie down the stretch. I just think Dantzler. I was obviously higher on Dantzler.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cleveland. So
yeah, Ezra Cleveland will be interesting to see if he can. I mean, if he can stick there at guard, man. I mean, this Vikings offensive line could sure use it, man. That interior offensive line has been bad for a while.
Yeah, like they have some. So they drafted really well last year. One of the best drafts. We'll get to that when we're going to regrade.
According to PFF's draft grades last year, I think we gave them an A+.
We gave them an A initially. Looking back,
an A initially. Yes, correct.
They'd have the best, in my opinion, them in Tampa in terms of like draft capital versus what they got in return. One of the best. So like their draft last year was awesome. I thought the draft this year was awesome. And what they did in free agency, getting like Patrick Peterson, re-upping that defensive line, they have some turnaround potential here. If Rodgers is not there, they are easily the favorites in the NFC North.
All right, let's go ahead and now jump to the Detroit Lions. 2nd-year breakout. It's got to be.
It's got to be. I mean, Jeffrey Okudah, it just has to be. Just getting him as far away from Matt Patricia as humanly possible. Now, some of it was on him too. Like, not some of it. Like, it was still, he played poorly in situations. Like, the urgency just wasn't there. And now he was super patient on his tape at Ohio State, but it's like, dude, this is the NFL. You got to like crank. You can't be patient. You got to sometimes kick it into that next gear that he does have, in my opinion. You got to crank it up a little quicker than he did this past year. I think you'll see the speed of the game will be much slower for him in year 2, and I think you'll see a much better player.
Yeah, I think Jeffrey Okudah takes massive steps forward. He's just like too good to fail. Like too. I mean, the traits are there. All that's there. Yeah. Like the experience at Ohio State and man coverage was there. And I think there's similarities in.
Dude.
Go ahead.
I would say massive wingspan, explosive dude, like all the things you could want from a cornerback.
Really good tape at Ohio State.
Yeah.
And I think there's similarities in, I think Patrick Queen and Jeffrey Okudah were both really successful in college. I think a lot of it was because of confidence. And I don't think you saw confidence from Queen as much, specifically in coverage, and from Okudah. And Okudah, to be fair, to have confidence going against the slate of receivers he saw would have been insane. He was going against Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins. He was seeing good receiver after good receiver and getting cooked because of it. But still, I think Okudah takes a step forward. I'm also really excited about this Detroit Lions offensive line due to 2 second-year guys, Jonah Jackson and Logan Stenberg on the interior. We like both those guys coming out. Jonah Jackson a little bit more, but a 3rd and 4th round pick from 2020, slated to start alongside Frank Ragnow there. And then you got Taylor Decker at left tackle, and you add Penei Sewell to come and play right tackle. This is going to be a very good Detroit Lions offensive line.
Top 5, top 10. Top 10 easily.
Yeah, top 10 easily.
Offensive line in the NFL.
You expect some development, obviously, from those second-year guys. I'm looking forward to it. Let's now jump to the NFC South, starting with the New Orleans Saints.
New Orleans Saints, I think Cesar Ruiz could get some love here, but I think Zach Bond will play a bigger role this year. Now, obviously, they draft Pete Werner in the 2nd round, lose Alex Anzalone, but I think Zach Bond, like they drafted him in the 3rd round, obviously in 2020. I think he just plays a bigger role, whether it's as a sub-package rusher, because only 102 snaps as a rookie. Played a few more down the stretch, played a few more games down the stretch, and obviously had 19 snaps against Tampa Bay in that divisional round loss. But I'm just excited to see him on the football field.
Snap increase, yeah. Just get more snaps now that there's some opportunity there with the linebackers leaving. What's your opinion of Cesar Ruiz's first season? Earned a 53.8 overall grade, played over 880 offensive snaps at right guard. Do you see him taking a step forward?
I do. He was super young coming out. He wasn't even 21 years old. And now he'll turn. So he's 21 right now. Like the guy was a young football player trying to play in the NFL who was probably just, that's why it didn't really make sense to me at the time when they drafted him. I'm like, damn, you had a complete offensive line. You're all in for this year. And you drafted, I don't want to call him a project, but a guy who may struggle out the gate. Kind of similar to like James Daniels it reminded me a lot of Daniels coming out of Iowa. I think he was only 20. And I'm like, he's just going to struggle initially because he's not strong. Like he's not necessarily strong enough to deal with the NFL game. Not a lot of guys are 20 years old. It's rare. So they drafted him, cut Warford, and then like Ruiz it was a downgrade from Warford. That was an interesting sort of transition.
I mean, he got some snaps, to be fair. I mean, at least they gave him that opportunity. I think second year you start to see some development from him, but true, was not, definitely raw coming out. Let's now jump to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and there's only one answer here. There's only one answer for Detroit, and it's Jeffrey Okudah, but there's only one answer for the Bucs as well, because their first two picks were already breakouts. Tristan Wirfs and Antoine Winfield Jr. were two of the better picks in the NFL draft last year, and they went to the same team, but I think I like this other pick for them.
Yeah, there's really only one guy who can feasibly break out, and it's Tyler Johnson. And even then, it's like he's not going to have a lot of opportunity, but I think he may get more opportunity than he saw a season ago, especially in terms of like if anyone goes down in that offense. I think he's the next man up. So, yeah, Tyler Johnson, the wide receiver, I think is your only candidate there for them.
All right, jumping off the Bucs here, going to the Carolina Panthers. Who's their second-year breakout?
Carolina Panthers' second-year breakout is Yetur Gross-Matos. Another one where I would have said, his name's Troy Pride Jr., had he not just gotten like usurped in the offseason by them drafting J.C. Horn, them signing A.J. Bouye. And obviously Dante Jackson's still in the mix there, so he's probably going to see
fifth fiddle.
Yeah, he's going to see his snaps decreased here. I think Yetur, we saw some flashes of him early on, gets hurt, comes back from the injury, and never really flashed again. But I think he's obviously going to be in the mix across from Brian Burns, who will be starting 377 snaps as a rookie. We shall see what he does, but that would be my candidate there for them. I
also think Derek Brown, obviously the former first-round pick out of Auburn, takes a significant step forward in 2021, earned just a 61.0 PFF grade this past year. A lot of that was just early on, like adjusting, because they threw him to the fire. He played 43 snaps against Vegas' interior offensive line week one. Like he was thrown into the fire and then progressively got better, specifically as a pass rusher too. I looked at from nose tackle alignments, he played a bulk majority of his snaps along head up or shaded on the center. He had the third highest pass rush win rate of any defensive tackle from those alignments. I do think that plays more of that position, continues to get better. I can see his grade jumping 10, 15 points in 2021.
Yeah, I was going to say, so some of this, I think people already had a high opinion of Brown and Chase rookie season to where it's like they play well in year two. I'm not sure people are going to consider that a breakout. Now, there are some other guys in this list that I put that are in the similar vein. So breakout's a relative term, shall we say.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. Just use an opportunity to talk about that rookie class. What about your boy Bravion Roy?
Bravion Roy, I think he's not going to have the PT. He's not going to get the...
He also struggled quite a bit against the run last year.
He's got those tiny little baby arms, but...
Poor guy.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
They signed Daquan Jones. So
I'm interested to see what they do on defense. I'm interested in the Carolina Panthers. I keep bringing it up too. Like I like what they did in the draft over the past 2 years, specifically on defense. It's like, all right, Sam Darnold, we need to see it click. If we don't see it click, man, all this for naught. You know what I mean? That's the brutal part of it. All right, last one in the NFC South here, the Atlanta Falcons.
This guy, I just want to see, literally, like Marlon Davidson. So
so much hype for him coming out of Auburn. We have not seen him at all.
Well, and then so he got hurt, then got COVID, and then he got hurt again. 132 total snaps as a rookie, and now he actually had a 68.5 run defense grade there, but was more obviously utilized as a sub-package rusher when he did play for the Falcons, but like was just kind of screwed, like behind the eight ball his whole rookie season. So literally just want to see this dude, what he can do with obviously a full off season now and hopefully being healthy.
Some other players from that draft class I'm interested to see maybe more of. Matt Hennessy played 2 games at center down the stretch, over 60 snaps. And the other guy that I know that they're high on, talking to some of the people on the Atlanta Falcons, at least digital content side is Michael Walker, a linebacker that played a decent amount, earned over a 90.0 PFF coverage grade this past year. We've had him, I believe, on this podcast, or I talked to him on a Sirius show, one or the other, but I think he's an interesting guy that I think could see more snaps, continue to see more snaps at off-ball linebacker Michael Walker coming out of, where did he get drafted out of? Michael Walker out of Fresno State, maybe. Fresno State, 4th round pick out of Fresno State. All right, now jumping to the NFC East, starting with the football team.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, this was one I was like, who do I go with as like a breakout? Because Chase Young probably already broken out. After that, like Antonio Gipson, did he break out? He had 826 rushing yards. Is that a breakout? I think he's going to have a monster year. Like, as I think he's going to have a monster year too. I think their offensive line should be better this upcoming season. Now they just cut, or are going to part ways with Morgan Moses, but I don't feel like Sadiq Charles was the guy who I was high enough on to say he's going to break out in year two. I didn't see it with him. That's why he's a 4th rounder, 108th overall. Cam Curl, I think he's a good player. I'm not sure he's going to be
much better than he was last
year.
Like,
yeah, he was very good last year. I'm not sure he was like, that's why he's a 7th rounder. But Antonio Gipson, I feel very good about. If he just gets the opportunity, this guy's going to produce. So Antonio Gipson, get your Antonio Gipson shares now.
Oh, wow. Fantasy advice.
Because stock's going
getting
up.
fantasy advice? I love to see it.
That's just a stock.
What's interesting about Antonio Gipson, the thing that we talked about a ton coming out of Memphis, highest forced missed tackle rate on so few carries. Because he only had 30-ish carries coming out of Memphis that season. But then this past year, 39 broken tackles as a rookie. A really, really good game on Thanksgiving. I think that's when everyone kind of fell in love with Antonio Gipson against the Dallas Cowboys there. And the other thing I'll add, too, of all the backs in the NFL with over 100 carries last year, Antonio Gipson had the lowest percentage of carries with that gains 0 or fewer yards, 3.8%. Not getting stuffed at the line.
And we've said that running back, more so than any other position in the NFL, hits the ground. Hits the ground running. I hate that I just said that. I hate that I just did that. I didn't even try to. I didn't want to.
It sucked. I don't like hearing.
But they're the most NFL ready. But if any of that running back class could have room for growth in terms of how they, running style, whatever, it was Antonio Gipson, the guy who didn't even play running back. So of any of those guys, he could feasibly still be improving, and he was fantastic last year. 4.5 per carry, 2 point whatever after contact. I should have had that ready, but whatever.
Still
2.5.
I'm excited for Antonio Gipson year two, man. I think it was a good year last year, but I agree that he is a big breakout candidate. All right, let's jump now to the New York Giants.
I'm going to go. Now, they got a couple. I think both Andrew Thomas and this guy are going to have much, much better second years. This guy would have honestly had a very good rookie year had he just been healthy. And it's Xavier McKinney, safety there. 2nd round pick. I just think he's the guy who gets that football player label, didn't test off the charts, wasn't going to wow you with any sort of freak athleticism, but the guy knows how to fucking play the game of football. So Xavier McKinney, I thought when you saw him, like I said, was hurt, didn't make start until week 14 last year, only played the last 4 games, but he looked like the real deal as a rookie. I think he's going to have a big year too.
What were your biggest concerns with Andrew Thomas's rookie tape? Where did you see the biggest concerns, and where's the biggest opportunity for improvement for the former first rounder?
So his vertical sets were just a fucking mess. They really were, and it was not something he really did at Georgia. There's a lot of angle sets at Georgia, a lot of condensed formations there, and he's kind of tight to the guys he's blocking. But when he had space with edge rushers, he just really struggled with his relationships. And so I think that's the biggest thing. You saw some improvement with that, like I said, down the stretch with him already. But I think year two, a full off season of prep, it just was something that, like I said, you just didn't see on his tape him asked to do it at Georgia. And now it's completely different in the NFL. So I think it'll get fixed. He's got the physical tools. It's there. That's how it goes for a lot of offensive linemen in the NFL.
Another question on the Giants before we jump to the Cowboys here. Have you decided what they're going to do along the offensive line? Who are they going to start along the 5? Is it going to be?
I have no fucking clue.
I have no idea either.
It's such a weird combination to try to shoehorn in there that they might just roll. I think they might just have to keep Peart and Solder at tackle and have Peart be the backup. I don't know. You don't kick Thomas into guard. Thomas is the one who most logically could kick into guard. But
you just don't want to do that, yeah.
Put your tail between your legs and say, hey, we're kicking that. But it's also you don't want to throw Shane Lemieux out there because he was a fucking disaster as a rookie.
He was bad.
He was so bad. It's not sorry, Shane, but you weren't ready, buddy. Yeah, that's it's they got a weird kind of congregation of talent there.
All right, let's jump now.
But they'll be better. They'll be better this year.
Let's jump to the Dallas Cowboys.
Can't be worse.
Dallas Cowboys, biggest second-year breakout.
I'm going to go now. I think CeeDee Lamb, I think, already qualified as like everyone knew that dude was awesome as a rookie. Just didn't really have the opportunity after Dak went down. I'm going to go Trevon Diggs. You saw some flashes of it, and I think a lot of the big plays he gave up early on last season, you started to see go away by the end of last year. So if you kind of just like take away the early season struggles, he was a much improved cornerback down the stretch. So I think we'll see that sort of that transitional period's gone. We'll see the steady guy we saw, maybe not a super high-end cornerback, but I think he'll be a much more solid corner. And he goes in a Dan Quinn scheme that's much better suited for his strengths than whatever the hell they were trying to run last year.
What was your opinion of Tyler Biadasz? He's slated to start at center for them. He only played, a little over 400 snaps this past season, former fourth-round pick out of Wisconsin, 6'3", 319. Do you feel like Tyler Biadasz now probably going to be the starter for the, all of that next season if he can stay healthy? Do you think Tyler Biadasz takes a step forward?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think he does, but I don't see – I think Diggs had a lot more reason to be encouraged about what he can do in year two. Biadasz, I think, is a solid center, but I don't see him, turning into that dude.
They need some second-year leaps from everyone pretty much besides CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb, you want to see him improve, but Trevon Diggs needs to bounce back. Neville Gallimore needs to bounce back quite a bit. Tyler Biadasz, you'd like to see him grade a lot better. So banking on some rookies here, we're probably going to see some significant roles as well in 2021. All right, off of the Cowboys and onto the Philadelphia Eagles. I knew you'd pick this guy for the Eagles, man. He is your guy.
No, I love this guy. The safety, Kayvon Wallace. He played some down the stretch the last 5 games of last season. I think he sees more playing time even this year, whether it's in slot or obviously at safety. I just don't trust. Well, one, I would pick Jack Driscoll if Jack Driscoll had a path to the field. Obviously the tackle they drafted out of Auburn last year, who did fill in and played actually very well as a rookie in spelling when guys were hurt along that offensive line. But I don't trust Hurts. And then at that point, I don't trust him to get the ball to Reagor, who's obviously now had Devontae Smith there as well. And then Davion Taylor was such a project coming out of Colorado. So I will pick Kayvon Wallace if I got anyone on their roster to be a breakout year too.
I think Kayvon Wallace is the only answer here. I really like that pick for the Eagles. You'd like to see him. I mean, do you imagine he's going to get used exclusively at safety? How do you imagine he gets deployed? Because he played a ton of slot cornerback at Clemson.
Yeah, so no more Jalen Mills, obviously there, who was starting safety. Now, I believe Rodney McLeod's still there. And you have Anthony Harris, who you signed. So there's not necessarily the cleanest path to the field for him, but we shall see.
What are your expectations for Jalen Reagor and Jalen Hurts entering year two? Those are the two big names. Those are the names that they really want to pan out in 2021.
I don't see it with Hurts as a passer, man. I just don't see it. Even when they were moving the ball better than obviously Carson Wentz, which is a low fucking bar to be moving the ball better than. A lot of that was Hurts scrambling. And now you'll see some second reactions to big plays from them, but I don't think you're just going to see consistent production that could warrant breakout status from either.
All right, let's get off of the NFC East and onto the NFC West. But before we do so, let's get a quick break from our sponsors here at Western Southern. This podcast is brought to you by Western Southern. In these uncertain times, life is full of questions. Like, when should I start thinking about life insurance? But however difficult these questions may be, Western Southern can help you answer them. Backed by over 130 years of experience, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind. Western Southern Financial Group, life insurance, retirement, and investments. Compensated endorser. Products issued by member companies of Western Southern Financial Group, Cincinnati, Ohio. All right, NFC West, Seattle Seahawks. Start with them.
I'm going to go Alton Robinson. Now, they get Darrell Taylor back from injury, but Alton Robinson, this guy was thought of as a prospect at one point. He was very good his junior season, had a terrible senior year, drops to the 5th round. But then he comes in and was probably their most productive pass rusher outside of Carlos Dunlap last year. So I'm not sure the opportunities for him are going to be massive. Only 344 snaps. You got LJ Collier there as well, who knows what the hell he's up to anymore. But I do think Alton Robinson, what we saw from a 65.9 pass rushing grade for a rookie, that's pretty encouraging, and especially a 5th rounder. So, like I said, I think in the early days of 2-for-1 drafts, he was a guy where hey man, he can bull rush on his tape there at Syracuse. You see him
He's a formerly highly regarded recruit too. That I think left Texas A&M due to some off-field stuff, and then went to Syracuse.
Yeah. No, it's Syracuse. And so there's something there. I don't think anyone knew why he was so bad his senior year, and really was not productive his last year at Syracuse. But I'm intrigued by what we saw as a rookie.
What was your opinion of Jordan Brooks last year? Obviously, one of the lower graded linebackers in the NFL according to PFF. Was one of the bigger consensus reaches of the first round according to the Athletic Consensus Board. What was wrong with Jordan Brooks' tape last year, and where does he need the most improve?
Well, their stupid base defense that they love running. They do love running the base. It's just like you get put in shitty situations when you're in base defense. That's why you get hung out to dry because you're going up against slot receivers when you're matching 3 wide with 3
so
linebackers.
Many teams running 11 personnel more than 50% of the time, and still Seattle adamant about putting 3 linebackers on the football field. I'm pulling up the numbers now to see how often they're in base. I know it's the most in the NFL, but I want to know what percentage it is.
It's comically the most. They just refuse. And in today's day and age, like I said, Jordan Brooks having a coverage grade of 29.4 last year, I don't know how much you can blame him when a lot of times you're just not, like I said, not being put in a good situation.
Yeah, man, that is rough to see. Rough to see. All right, jumping off of the Seattle Seahawks here, we go to the Los Angeles Rams. Biggest second-year breakout for the Los Angeles Rams.
I'm going to go with Terrell Lewis, the 3rd-round edge defender out of Alabama. I thought he was a little bit better than the 3rd rounder where he ended up going, pick 84. He was a guy who, I didn't love when he was getting 1st-round hype. Then once he goes to 84 overall, I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually not a bad pick at all. Long dude. I think he probably fell to where he did because of his injury history at Alabama. And obviously, I think, did he have COVID or something? He didn't get on the field until week 5 this past year. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly why. But I really liked what I saw from him in the running game, his length, his ability to set the edge, and obviously that defense. And when you have Aaron Donald in the interior, it is conducive to playing at the edge position at a high level, as we saw with Leonard Floyd having a breakout year there last year as well. So I think I'm excited to see what he does in that defense.
I was going to pick Terrell Burgess of Utah. Didn't play a lot last year. I know he had an injury. I think Terrell Burgess of Utah would be my pick there, the former 3rd-round pick out of Utah, a guy that had a ton of instincts. I remember talking to him last year and watching his tape, the guy who plays with that vision head start that we brought up a handful of times.
Stop
but then
bringing up vision head start.
I love vision head start. The other name that I think people probably were expecting from you is maybe Van Jefferson. What was your opinion of Van Jefferson's season last year? I know he had some successes, some non-successes. I think he had close to 400 receiving yards last year. Do you imagine Van Jefferson maybe taking a step forward?
I'm not a big Van Jefferson guy. I wasn't coming out.
Yeah.
If I could told that to Zach Robinson, they still drafted him in the 2nd round. Now, Zach told me that Justin Jefferson was wide receiver 1. So to each their own. He got that one. I still just don't think, I thought he was, it just does not have the play strength that I wanted to see, and he's old. He's almost 25. He's about to turn 25 this year. Season. Yeah, so
we'll be 25 this year. Last 2 games though, 7 targets in week 17, 6 targets in the divisional playoff game. We'll see if Van Jefferson's role steps up. Tutu Atwell,
he will have more play, but I think I'd rather have Deshaun Jackson out there than Van. I'm just saying.
That's a fair take. All right, Cardinals. This is probably the one they're freaking hoping for, man. They need to see a 2nd-year breakout from this kid,
Isaiah Simmons, and I think they will. I think the biggest thing was just he was not a linebacker at Clemson. Mm-hmm. It's not that, and I've said it about Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, it's not that those guys, when their skill sets, can't play linebacker. It's just that they haven't done it. And so when you haven't done it, it might, a lot of things just fucking how to match an angle route, which was, what everyone clowned him for week 1 against San Francisco. You've never done it before. He's never seen an angle route and known what to do because he's always been 15, 20 yards off the ball. So basically, getting those things up to speed athletically, he can do it all. He can. And you saw it come to fruition more down the stretch. I mean, he finished with a 69.9 coverage grade even after, giving up over almost 100 yards that week 1 game and then getting clowned by everyone. He was still very good down the stretch. The athleticism is still going to play. And now you have this interesting hybrid potential with him and Zaven Collins that I think you're going to see a big year from Isaiah Simmons. I just do.
Yeah, I think Isaiah Simmons is the obvious answer here. Some other names that I'm interested to see more of, Leki Fotu former Utah defensive tackle that I thought was going to hit the ground running as a run defender, earned just a 39.1 run defense grade last year on over 100 snaps. And then, is there a path to the field for your guy out of Houston, Josh Jones? I know that they've had good tackle play, and he's I think around 310 pounds. Is there probably no opportunity to play on the inside?
They re-signed Kelvin Beachum. I think maybe there's going to be a competition, and they wanted to keep him at tackle. Like, they want that swing tackle back up because that's more valuable than maybe having a minor upgrade at guard, getting a guy who knows going to be solid than a tackle. So he could feasibly beat out Kelvin Beachum. They didn't pay Kelvin Beachum a ton. It wouldn't surprise me, but I think he still may just be that swing tackle backup.
Interested to see if Josh Jones can win that spot, because Kelvin Beachum held his own last year, and DJ Humphries has played well a lot.
Kelvin Beachum is one of the most underrated players in the NFL. He's been very good in pass protection ever since it was left tackle for the Steelers back in 2014. Back then, I don't know. He's just been very solid in that regard. One of the craziest builds in the NFL. If you haven't seen Kelvin Beachum or know what I'm talking about, his waist is like the waist of a 6'8" man. But he's only 6'3". He is one of the most high cut human beings. You've not seen it apparently yourself. Go look up Kelvin Beachum waist.
I just Googled Kelvin Beachum waist, and I'm looking for images. He does have a weird build.
He's got a super high waist. There's one picture of him next to 3 other offensive linemen. He's got the highest waist, but he's 3 inches shorter than all of them.
What the hell?
You see the picture I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
It's insane.
That is the weirdest looking human being I've ever seen.
He's got a crazy build. That's what I'm saying. If you've never seen Kelvin Beachum's build, go look it up. It's hilarious.
Wild to see. What the hell is that? All right. The other thing I was going to say is I think DJ Humphries has played really well. DJ Humphries playing at left tackle this past year, 90.8 run blocking grade this past year, 79.9 pass blocking grade over the
him and Garrett Bowles kind of got roasted early on in their careers and have really turned it around in recent years. Now they're obviously different draft classes, but it's also, he's kind of the poster boy for a lot of times why thinking you're going to fix your offensive line in the first round isn't as sweet as it seems, because those guys, he turned out good. That's a hit. Chalk it up. I hit it. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't play well until year 5.
Yeah.
He's not a quality offensive tackle for you until then. So,
all right, jumping to the San Francisco 49ers, biggest second-year breakout for them.
I'm going to go with, so the Ayuk, it's I think Ayuk is going to be fantastic, but I think everyone saw it as a rookie. It's kind of like CeeDee Lamb. It's everyone kind of knew. The one was up and down as a rookie that needs to take a second year is Javon Kinlaw. And now you saw the flashes, man, and the flashes were awesome from him. But he finished with a 58.0 pass rush grade, 46.9 run defense grade. It was not there consistently whatsoever. And now he even told us, they didn't teach us how to pass rushing moves at South Carolina. And that's a big ass thing. That is pretty massive. I actually just watched Larry Johnson, the Ohio State defensive line coach, a whole clinic about his pass rushing moves that he teaches at Ohio State. And it's just if you're not doing similar stuff to that, if you're not being coached stuff like that, I don't know what kind of chance you have. You have to be a physical freak if you're really not getting taught and drilling.
It's so much more of a skill position than maybe even people give credit for. I mean, you need to know the moves.
Well, it's a both at the NFL level. At the college level, you can win with if you're super skilled or super athletic, you can get the job done. At the NFL level, it's got to be a confluence of both. You can't just be super athletic. You can't just be Solomon Thomas. You can't just be that. You can't just be super skilled. You can't just be, Shalik Calhoun. You have to be both.
All right, before we jump to the AFC, a quick break here from DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving you a chance to lower the over-under on a featured playoff game. All players who place a bet on the featured basketball game will have a hand in lowering the over-under on the game. That's right. For every 1,500 players who bet the over on a select game, the over-under will drop by 1 point. DraftKings is a safe, secure, and reliable place to bet so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code PFF when you sign up to hammer the over. For every 1,500 people that bet the over in the featured game, the line will decrease by 1 point. Yes, this is your chance to improve the odds of the over hitting. So tell your friends and family this is a team effort. Hammer the over and improve your odds of doubling your money. That's promo code PFF for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. Restrictions apply. Max $25 wager, one per customer. Offer ends 5/23/21, May 23rd, 2021. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. AFC time, baby. On to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Now they got a couple options here, but I think Kevin Dotson obviously is going to slot in at left guard. And what we saw from him as a rookie, he was one of the best rookie guards in the NFL. He finished with 87.2 pass blocking grade. And we know, obviously, the Steelers' history of developing offensive linemen. Now, a lot of that was under Mike Munchak, who's not there any longer. Obviously, I think he's still with the Broncos, I want to say. But I do think with how good Dotson was, like, I'm not even sure it's a breakout. It's just people are finally going to maybe come around to the fact that he's a very good offensive lineman.
I think that's a fair take. Very fair take.
Yeah.
So what's your take overall on the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line? Obviously, Dotson stepping in, predicting a second-year breakout for them. Are they a bottom 5 unit, a bottom 10 unit? People are talking about this offensive line like it's an absolute shambles, and I know it's not great, but how bad is it?
It's bad. And it's because tackle play is so much more valuable than interior play.
Absolutely.
It's because when you're sending out Chukwuma Okorafor and Zach Banner as your tackles, and now Ben Roethlisberger in that offense last year was comically in terms of how quick he was getting the ball out of his hand. Like he was a lot of screens, a lot of like RPO stuff or like quick game stuff, but then also just like Ben was terrified of pressure, and so that helps obviously. But when there are situations where you just can't do stuff like that, you're going to have to drop back and pass, and those are going to be scary for them because you have good guards, you have bad everything else, or feasible, or like just very unknowns at everything else. And yeah, I'd be worried. It's bottom 5, borderline bottom 5. I'm not going to put necessarily bottom 5 on them just yet, but it's close.
Jumping to the Baltimore Ravens, you have Justin Madubuike at their second-year breakout, the former Texas A&M defensive tackle, third-round pick.
Yeah, he was a guy we highlighted multiple times on the what fucking dumb segments do we have?
We had a bunch of crazy segments, but we did highlight him a ton. He did have a couple single games where you're like, oh man, he kind of showed up.
90.4 against Cleveland, 9.4 grade. He had 4 pressures in that game. Like he had some quick dubs on his tape. Those were against Wyatt Teller, by the way. No slouch. Pro Bowl guard there. Was he a Pro Bowler? I don't know. It was PFF Pro Bowler. We'll call him that.
Absolutely.
So Justin Madubuike on that defensive line. Now it's kind of a loaded interior there. Not necessarily as much on the edge, but I think he's still 305 snaps last year, 70.3 grade. I think you're going to see this guy make some moves. Super athlete coming out of Texas A&M. Fell all the way to the third round. I think he's going to be a player this year.
All right, before we jump off the Baltimore Ravens, I asked you this question about Jordan Brooks. Patrick Queen, 30.0 coverage grade last year, 29.0 run defense grade, 29.7 overall grade across more than 940 snaps. People in Baltimore think he played a lot better than that. How does it get better for Patrick Queen?
He was just so up and down. Like the consistency aspect was not there. You would just see him just lost too many times. But then also, like, you still saw it. It was very reminiscent of, to me, Devin White's rookie year, where it's just like you still saw it. Like you still got that juice and that playmaking ability that, you know, if you're a 4.75 linebacker who's super steady, you're not making the plays that he made sometimes. So I will say he wasn't alone in that he was a rookie linebacker hung out to dry by not having an offseason. I think it'll be a lot better this year. But I will say Madubuike at least had more flashes that I think I'm more excited. It's like I would bet more on Madubuike having a big year too than Queen at this point.
Cleveland Browns, second-year breakout is?
Gotta be our boy, Grant Delpit. Top 15 player, I believe, on the PFF draft board. I mean, what he could do in coverage at 6'3", 203 pounds. A matchup, dude. Like, that is what the Browns are bringing back, and him and Greedy Williams, who didn't play last year. That in and of itself is a lot to add on top of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Greg Newsome, all the other shit they've added defensively. I'm excited to see. Now, they got a bunch of safeties there now. Ronnie Harrison, him, John Johnson, obviously they added. So, going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But, man, Grant Delpit, I think is going to have a big year, too. To me, like I said about Xavier McKinney, him having a big year, too, super steady as a rookie. I expected similarly from Delpit, at least in coverage.
I'm also looking forward to Jordan Elliott. I think Jordan Elliott's another guy that only played 350 snaps this past year. He only in 2 games down the stretch did he play more than 10 pass rush snaps. Like to see him get more on the football field and see if he can step up, especially with Larry Ogunjobi gone. Doesn't necessarily play the same role, but I'm interested to see Jordan Elliott get in there and make some plays.
They got a lot of dudes now in that interior. They signed Malik McDowell, signed Malik Jackson. They got Tommy Togiai,
Marvin Wilson as a UDFA. I'm interested. All right,
they threw the kitchen sink at it.
On to the Cincinnati Bengals. This is obvious. Come on.
Joe Burrow. He's doing it.
We need it.
He was good last year. And then a guy is this a breakout? He has 75.1 overall grade. That's very good for a rookie. But I do think you're going to see a big step forward. And especially down the football field where he was, like I said, the third lowest adjusted completion percentage on deep targets last year. Mm-hmm. The only 2 lower, I believe, were Mitch Trubisky and Dwayne Haskins. It's bad company. That's not Joe Burrow company. That's not the Joe Burrow we saw at LSU. So getting Jamar Chase, getting a improved offensive line, I'm not going to put it in any sort of great shakes whatsoever, but it's an offensive line you could win with. I think Joe Burrow's going to have a big year.
I couldn't agree more. I think T. Higgins too. I think the biggest thing with Joe Burrow is the deep accuracy is going to improve, in my opinion, in year 2, not just with the development of him, but also the chemistry he has with T. Higgins, the chemistry he has with Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd now in year 2 with him. I do think Joe Burrow's deep accuracy, you're going to see the most significant improvement from Joe Burrow throwing the ball deep. And it's not because his arm's going to get significantly better, but I do think it's the offensive line, I think, is obviously improved, but also I think that chemistry matters, man. That chemistry on the deep ball definitely matters. All right, on to the AFC South, starting with the Tennessee Titans and former LSU cornerback Kristian Fulton.
Yes, not predicting Isaiah Wilson to have a big year anytime soon.
Well, it's still going to be a big year for him.
Oh, he's going to have his album sales are through the roof. But then really, it was a bad draft for them. Like Chris Jackson, their 7th rounder, he played last year in the slot. It was bad. I don't foresee him, the cornerback, playing much this upcoming season. Obviously, now they draft Elijah Molden as well. Darrington Evans, they don't take Derrick Henry off the field really there. So unless injury, I don't see him. And he was like a scat back type anyway. That was a weird pick to me always when they drafted a 93 overall. But Fulton, now they've seemed dead set on trying to replace him after, cutting Dory Jackson, cutting Malcolm Butler. He thought, it's Kristian Fulton season. No, they signed, obviously, Janoris Jenkins, draft Caleb Farley in the 1st round, but I do still think there's a path for Fulton to see the football field, and Elijah Molden the 3rd, who could be a safety or / slot cornerback there. I think at least Fulton's their slot to start. I think at least that's the position he plays for them. And like I said, he's the only real option here for them as 2nd-year breakout.
All right, Indianapolis Colts, wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., my guy out of USC. Excited to see him, man. He's got to have every opportunity to be the guy in Indy.
Yeah, and obviously Jonathan Taylor already broken out. I think Julian Blackmon's a good breakout candidate as well. But Pittman with Carson Wentz, that's the type of receiver Carson Wentz has gone for over the course of his career. That's who he meshes with. The big body, contest catch dudes, big catch radius. So no real excuse for him in year 2. No real excuse for Carson Wentz either. So that's my pick for their breakout. Owen's a pretty chalk pick there.
I like the chalky. Sometimes it's nice to be chalky. Texans, John Reed, the cornerback out of Penn State, a guy that has a wild background too. He's one of the smarter players in that draft class, a guy that we're going to identify as a target. If he doesn't make it in the NFL, come work for PFF. One of the smarter guys for sure.
Yeah. So he was the 4th-round cornerback. He's a little on the older side. He's going to turn 25 here soon, but at least as a slot, if not takes one of the jobs of, Vernon Hargreaves there on the outside, because Vernon Hargreaves has been cashing checks for a while now, my Lord. But it's more like Ross Blacklock in the 2nd round was one of the worst graded defense tackles in the NFL. Jonathan Greenard did really nothing as a rookie, also the edge rusher in the 3rd round. Reed, he played in the slot for them down the stretch a couple games, finished with a 56.8 coverage grade, 145 snaps. I think he was one of my favorite sleepers in that draft. Obviously goes in the 4th round, pick 141 overall. I thought just a really instinctive and good zone corner that in slot they could play.
I think that's fair. All right, now jumping last team in the AFC South, Jacksonville Jaguars. They have a lot of 2nd-year players that not necessarily need to break out, but have an opportunity to break out. Obviously, Laviska Shenault Jr. is an option. C.J. Henderson is an option. But you have here Kayvon Chason, LSU edge.
We haven't talked about that ETN thing, about him working exclusively at wide receiver.
We haven't.
That was awesome to me. I love that.
Some people hate it.
No, like he said, the worst case scenario is, he just goes back to running back. It's like the running back part's easy. Not to say it's easy, but it's like the running back part, the running with a football in your hands is the part he's done his entire life. The running routes and the things you want to do to make him versatile is the thing that he hasn't done his entire life. So practice that. That's going to help him more in the long run. Now, the wild thing to me about the whole ETN pick and all that is, if that's the guy you want, Shenault is that wholesale. Like, that's already been him. Shenault is your guy who could have been Antonio Gipson if you wanted him to just switch to running back, So that was weird to me that they would do that with that guy already on the roster. But I do love, hey, get this guy as many reps as a receiver as possible. But I will say, if I'm looking for a breakout on this team, it's going to be Caleb Monteson. Because final 5 games of last season, 19 pressures. Only 29 the entire year. 19 of those came in the final 5 games. I think you saw a different player to a degree. Like, you saw it start to click. And I think Joe Cullen's defense coming over from Baltimore is going to be much better suited for his strengths, get him to play a little up more and in space, and get him on some stunts and shit that can play with athleticism. So Caleb Monteson, your breakout candidate there. They got a nice little edge duo there. I know a lot of people said edge for them in the draft, but they got him and Josh Allen that could be nice.
Now we're on to the AFC East. Before we do so, I have a little message here from Symbol, new sponsor of the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast. It is the stock market for sports that allows you to trade sports teams like stocks and earn cash payouts when your teams win. Symbol, SIMBULL, has blended sports and the stock market to offer you a new way to invest in and profit off your favorite teams. The MLB is in full swing for the rest of the summer, allowing you to earn daily cash payouts, and NFL free agency is still going on. So whoever lands the top of the market player will be sure to see their team's stock rise. Use promo code PFF and deposit $10 at symbol.app/PFF to earn a free PFF annual subscription. That's promo code PFF with a $10 deposit at symbol.app/PFF to earn a free annual subscription. On to the AFC East, on to the Buffalo Bills. Second-year breakout, PFF favorite, running back Zach Moss.
Yeah, this is more, now Gabriel Davis probably has a better path to success year 2. Obviously, John Brown there, even though they brought in Emmanuel Sanders. He might get featured a little bit more this year, but I do think Zach Moss is a very good, talented running back. They said, McDermott has said, I want to run the ball better. I think he gives you your best chance. I think he's a much better back than Devin Singletary is, much more complete back. And now I would love to say AJ Epinesa. I liked what I saw from him at times year 1. They just drafted 2 replacements for him. They still have Jerry Hughes on the roster. It is an absolute logjam there. Gregory Rousseau and Carlos Basham in the first and second round when you already have Mario Addison and Jerry Hughes established there. So I don't know how that's going to shake out. But like I said, I did like what I saw from Epinesa. I could see him having a much better year 2. And I loved him as a prospect coming out, but it's just like path to the field. Is he going to? I don't know.
Is he going to? We'll see. Jumping to the Miami Dolphins. This is... Buddy better see it. Quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. I think it's going to be a second-year breakout. I think Tua Tagovailoa is going to take a step forward. I think the bigger question mark really for me is just how big is the step forward? Can he be an 85, 90.0 graded passer in the NFL? Can he get to that level? Can he be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? Because you need to see a significant step forward to feel confident that he can be that upper echelon QB.
Man, and there were times that it was like, that's a real deal guy. I mean, the second half, that third quarter / fourth quarter of the Arizona game was awesome from him. Like, he had some signs of life, but I do think the pressure of the NFL game, like that offensive line, obviously should be better this year, but it was like still an issue in pass protection last year. You saw that get to him. The fact that it is a much different offense from what he ran at Alabama. Now with co-offense coordinators this year, I don't know what the fuck it's going to look like. It's a weird situation.
It can be different every week.
Yeah. They just flip-flop who makes the game plan. No, I'm curious to see what it does look like, but it's almost, they got too many weapons there for it to be bad. Will Fuller, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, my God.
Preston Williams, fourth fiddle. Mike Gesicki.
Lynn Bowden. You can tell me on Lynn Bowden and before Preston Williams. And Jakeem Grant is the other one who... Like, Jakeem Grant's got some juice. Like, they can send out an offense where the slowest guy's Will Fuller. They could send out a wide receiving core where the slowest guy's Will Fuller. That's insane.
Yeah.
And I think the only offense in the NFL that can say that. Well, because they're the only offense that has Will Fuller, but also the only offense that...
I think they're also going to have to bank on some second-year development from their offensive line. Obviously, Austin Jackson,
yes,
former first-round pick. Yeah, former first-round pick out of USC, number 18 overall pick. You also have Robert Hunt, second-round pick. Solomon Kinley, drafted in the 4th round. All of those guys should see time this year. They need to take some steps forward along the offensive line to protect Tua Tagovailoa and get those balls out to that speedy receiving core. On to the New England Patriots. I love Kyle Duggar. Did you see the interview with him recently? I think Kyle Duggar is going to be awesome this year. And he was already really good for the Pats. There's obviously some opportunity to improve. But to do what he did after a year removed from Lenore Ryan, like a year removed from playing no one in the NFL,
I was gonna say,
NFL
a
caliber
different
competition.
Game, a different game altogether might as well have been there. So, yeah, I'm very excited to see what he does in year 2. I think a much bigger role he'll play if he's not. I mean, 520 snaps is a fairly big role. Finished with a 64.1 overall grade. That's like encouraging considering where he came from. And this dude is a freak of nature athletically and just build-wise, what he brings to the table. So
I think he's going to be a monster, dude.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a monster this year. I'm super excited. Played a ton in the box last year.
Went to the ideal situation for him for development. I mean, I think he takes over what basically Patrick Chung had been for the last decade for them. I think that's what you see him become in that New England defense.
I'm excited for this Pats front seven, man. I like what they've done along the defensive line. I was on the NFL podcast with Sam Monson a couple days ago. We talked about that Patriots defense. Part of me feels like there's obviously some weaknesses in the secondary. Stephon Gilmore getting a little bit older, but I do think that front seven, we see some steps forward from Josh Uche, Chase Winovich. Yeah, obviously, Kyle Duggar playing a ton in the box. I'm excited for this front seven. Lastly, in the AFC East, then we jump to the AFC West. New York Jets cornerback Bryce Hall in the perfect fit of a defense with Robert Slaw. We got to see it from him, the former Virginia cornerback that suffered. I think a lot of his stuff suffered, not all of his stuff, but a lot of his play suffered because he had that big injury the year prior and then had to come back from that. So I do think Bryce Hall entering year 2 could have a monster year.
Broke his ankle his senior year at Virginia, falls to 5th round because of it. No one on that defense benefits more from Robert Salah being there than Bryce Hall. This is the scheme for him. He was tied with Jeffrey Okudah last year at the Combine for the longest wingspan of any of the cornerbacks there. Long dude, great ball skills, tailor-made to play in that defense. So excited to see what he can do. But 62.8 coverage grade as a rookie is not bad. Like, it's not the disaster we saw from a bunch of people. 352 yards and about a half a season's worth of starting. A little over that. I think he can be good. Like, I think we were shitting on their secondary. Steve was shitting on their secondary draft week, but I think he can be at least good in that secondary. Now the rest remains to be seen. The safety position I think is pretty good, but Bryce Hall, I think he's the guy I'm looking at to have a big year.
Excited for it. Kansas City Chiefs. You're saying another breakout for L'Jarius Sneed? Guy already broke out.
Is it? I just don't love any of the other ones here.
Not Willie Gay?
I don't love Willie Gay, sadly. I don't know if he even starts in that Chiefs defense is the problem.
Yeah, Bolton likely start.
But I don't believe in Lucas Niang either. Did you see the discourse about Lucas Niang over the weekend about his gut just hanging out over his? He does not have a good body for an offensive tackle. It's not aesthetically pleasing.
No Ben Cleveland?
No, he's not a well-proportioned 325 or whatever he is.
I need to see this discourse. I need to see these images.
It's he just looked fat coming in, straight up. Like offensive linemen are fat, but he looked like another level of that, sadly. But L'Jarius Sneed he's going to be good. Like, he's going to be not just good, but like very good.
He kind of looks like a guard. That's a big boy. That's a big gut, at least.
He kind of looks like a Packers fan is what he looks like. But I do think L'Jarius Sneed takes to another level year 2. Like, his press ability, awesome year 1. And this might be cheating because he was, like I said, he only allowed a 66.6 completion or passer rating against and had the highest coverage grade of any rookie cornerback.
You're pretty much just saying L'Jarius Sneed's going to be good again.
Good again. Yeah. Gooder.
I like that. Las Vegas Raiders, they need to see it. Henry Ruggs, man. I do think he plays a lot better in 2021, but there are some concerns on his tape last year, specifically battling through contact. That's like, how much better does that get? But you have to hope his usage gets better.
Yeah.
His target rate gets higher. I mean, he has to take what Nelson Aguilar was and be that guy for them.
Basically.
He needs to have a better season this year than Nelson Aguilar had last year for you to feel really good about his development, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think he'll get the opportunities there will be more frequent, and like, you bank on some development from him. Like, he was he can still get off the line of scrimmage. Like, there was a lot there. We still liked him as a prospect. We just said, he's not Jerry Jeudy. He's not CeeDee Lamb. That's not ever what you're going to get. You're getting a deep threat. And the speed still played. I mean, he had the game winner against the Jets, so on the crazy, ridiculous cover 0. But I still think that's who I'd peg for them, because there's not a lot of other options there. No Linbo Nate walking through that door.
This one's also a cop-out. Well, Jerry needs a cop-out. Los Angeles Chargers, you have quarterback Justin Herbert.
I know it's a cop-out. But I think the thing that I'm excited to see is Justin Herbert. You go look at his worst games last year. They were all against the AFC East. Like, he sucked against the Pats. Obviously, that was like the one that everyone points to. But then he had a rough game against the Dolphins, a rough game against Buffalo.
Some good defensive-minded coaches in that division.
So getting away from them is a nice start.
Not Kenneth Murray. Kenneth Murray had a bad year last year. You think he bounces back at all?
See, I just wasn't high on Kenneth Murray coming out. So I'm not going to say a guy that I wasn't necessarily high on coming out. I would say KJ Hill, had they not drafted Josh Palmer, who I think is going to take KJ.
Yeah, he's a former 7th-round pick, KJ Hill out of Ohio State. Guy that lit up the Senior Bowl, but low draft capital investment, 220th overall pick. He's going to be battling for a roster spot in 2021. Last team here, last player, second-year breakout, Broncos wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy. Even though the quarterback situation is not going to be drastically improved, he's still going to be maybe if Teddy Bridgewater plays. I do think his play gets better. But man, Jerry Jeudy needs some accurate targets, like he needs air to breathe.
47.3% catch rate last year, 52 receptions on 110 targets. But he's still got 856 yards on those receptions, so still almost like 8 yards a target. But the drops, we gotta stop that, Jerry. That was
no more drops.
Came on his junior year at Alabama, 12 as a rookie. Ugh. Yeah, Jerry, figure it out.
Figure it out, Jerry.
Did you ever see that one interview with him?
I saw the interview with him. Yeah,
that was
horrendous.
He fell asleep in the middle of it or whatever.
I don't know if he fell asleep or what happened, but it wasn't good. It definitely wasn't good.
It's not good.
We need to bounce back across the board from Jerry Jeudy. Bounce back, second-year breakout for the Denver Broncos. That's going to do it for this episode of 2-for-1 Draft. Second-year breakout for all 32 NFL teams. Make sure to, like I said at the top of the podcast, if you're interested in providing feedback on 2-for-1 Drafts, doing some one-on-one Zoom interviews to talk about our rebrand, talk about the next steps for 2-for-1 Drafts, make sure to shoot me a DM on Twitter. Until next time, Austin Gayle, producer Mike Quinn, producer David Sofaro, Mike Renner, 2-for-1 Drafts.